Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Extra special thanks to guest lecturer member Toby Gaffney. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video. Hey there, Rulers, DMO73 here, bringing you the deck profile for the Arla list we saw earlier this week. This first list is kind of just it is what Aaron was playing, and it is kind of starting point for Arla. We wanted to try to give you guys kind of a basic concept of what these decks were kind of be, so that as you got used to the cards and everything else, you had something to kind of see what the decks looked like, kind of what they were gaming for mechanic wise, and then you could build and tech from there. So obviously we have Arla, who is our ruler. Stranger modes of get to, or regalia modes of get 2 strangers RFG'd, give 2 resonators +1, +2/+2 in flying, draw a card for every flyer you have, or judgment for 0. And then on the backside, we're going to get this 10/10 that gets us a free stone into the field when it comes into play, get a stranger at random removed from the game, and then we have that God Art that kind of floods the field with strangers. But if we lose all of our strangers, then we just end up losing the game. One thing to note is that it does specifically say things with different names, so you can only grab 1 copy of any specific stranger. That was a misplay on our part during the match, so we've kind of tweaked the deck based on that, but I did want to give you that kind of heads up. Stone base wise for this, we're playing with 4 Autoractes Memoria, 3 Gusting Skies, 2 Light Vapors, and 1 Deepwood, because we have primarily we want a lot of white green, but we do have some splashes for blue as well in there. So going into the main deck, we're playing 4 copies of Percival the Flying Knight. Absolutely great card for this deck, being able to banish to give counters to stuff to keep them alive, refills your hand with things with flying. Sucks that it's not an angel, but still a great card overall. Excel, the White Gale Eagle, another way to get strangers RFG'd, as well as just being an oppressive, not oppressive, a good board control resource. It can fly. If you get 4 or 5 strangers removed, suddenly every time Excel swings, he's probably killing something just from the swing trigger of his effect of burning something for damage based on the number of +1/+1 counters he has. The other thing is Percival bumps up what the kind of damage Excels can do, because they are +1s, so that's something to keep in mind. 3 Morning Angels, because 1, it's an angel. 2, the deck really likes to punish grave hate, and so Morning Angels is an excellent new card that helps to take advantage and punish grave hate or graveyard decks. 3 copies of Pierre the Godspeed Archer. Probably could bump this up to 4, to be all honest. This card is absolutely amazing. It does a lot of different work. It helps to keep Ultra decks at bay. It keeps those aggressive decks off you. You can see all the different things he was able to do with recharging the counters, because it doesn't tap to spend the counters. It just spends the counters. So you can do a lot of different stuff to kind of keep yourself safe, or chip through attacks, or do all kinds of things. Take an advantageous trade with blockers. Lots of cool things you can do. Magnus Angel, another one of the big kind of heavy hitting cards, another way to get your strangers RFG'd, and then just every stranger, different name among cards you control that are in your RFG area, she just gets +4/+4, so can be a very easy 2-cost 20/20 and beyond. A single teched copy of Nameless Knight. There's a lot of darkness in the meta, and this deck is playing the one of Arthur in the stranger deck, so this is a Knight of the Round, right? So if that Arthur comes into play from your God Art or something like that, suddenly, bam, you can kind of just immediately remove from play a Darkness Resonator. And it also is a nice way to be able to recycle it, because you can pay white if a stranger goes into your field, and then you just get to get it back. So you can kind of keep reusing it even if it's just 1 more copy. And then it also kind of helps in the mirror too, because if your opponent has like a Pierre or something, and you don't, and you have a Nameless Knight on, suddenly their Pierre is every counter they want to spend actually costs 2 will. So pretty solid card overall. Sacred Beast of Artemis, another really big boss monster for this deck. While it prepares to set up for flipping over Arla or something like that, it gains all of the activate abilities, keywords other than enter effects, races, and attributes of all the cards that are in your strangers that are in your RFG area. So this guy can very quickly become, based on what your RFGs have been with like your Arla trigger and stuff like that, very, very protected. And also just gain a lot of advantage and be able to make a lot of advantageous trades. Thankfully, it can never really gain attack from the things that you're RFGing, but there are enter effects if you decide to build it that way. Sorry, activate effects if you decide to build it that way, that he could use to buff himself up, which I think is important. 4 copies of Crystallization, super solid removal card at the expense of giving your opponent life, but also gets your Strangers RFG'd. 4 Awakening of the Winged Lord, excellent utility card, being able to grab the top 4 cards, or just being able to untap to be able to push through for a game. Lots of different reasons to be able to play 4 of this card. A single copy of Kaguya, just because it's a body, and sometimes you can set it up to be able to do the haiku with this deck. I will say, however, that you should... I will say that if you want to, you could easily trade in this Kaguya into another Earthly Phlash or that 4th copy of Pierre. It's just kind of if you have access to it. 4 Wings of the Archangel, because Regalia decks need to play 4 copies of all their Regalia. 3 copies of Earthly Phlash, because it's nice to be able to pop flyers, but also have that ability to cancel resonators. There's a lot of 3 cost or less resonators right now, so this is a very good cancel for that. And then lastly, 3 Arondites, because automatic abilities are pretty strong right now, and this is really the only card we have that can cancel them that way. So that is that. Going into the Stranger deck, we're playing a copy of Apollon. We're just going to kind of run through these really quick. 1 Apollon, it's 10 one-ofs. 1 Ishtar, because if we got Ardit, we get another free body. 1 Frigg, because we actually will get 2 bodies. So if Frigg's in the field and Ishtar, and we got Art to get both of them, then Ishtar triggers twice, and we get 2 bodies out of the graveyard when they both come into play. Michael the Archangel, an amazing way to be able to protect all of our angel resonators, including themselves. And remember, Bear will become an angel, so that's crazy. Arthur, for some really awesome keywords, as well as being able to get protect our Knights of the Round Table and keep our Knights of the Round Table alive. Will o' the Wisp for barrier, and you can save yourself if you need to. So barrier plus Eternal, which we get from Ares, is pretty strong for the bear to be able to use. So it's a good combination to hit early. Faust, the Promising Warrior, we don't really have a way to produce black to be able to recycle him, but Bane and Drain are amazing keywords to be able to put onto a bear that might potentially have Precision and Eternal on it. So excellent value there. A single copy of Artemis, because she is probably one of the best green-white Strangers because of her 1 swiftness, being able to give stuff barrier on command and be able to board wipe, as well as be a removal on a body, which I think is really awesome if you get it on bear pretty early. And then lastly, a Guardian of Outland, which I think is a very interesting tech choice, to be able to, when you do God Art, you immediately get another stone to ramp into play for the next turn, and then suddenly you have a 20/20 body staring your opponent down because you're bringing it into play on your opponent's turn. So you get a lot of value out of it that way. But that is the deck. Hope you guys liked it. It, again, is a really good launching point for Arla. So there's lots of different things you can do with this deck to be different. We'd love to hear what your ideas have been for Arla down below. And until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.